Missouri state parks are again asking the taxpayers of Missouri for financial bailout. The state park system of Missouri is referred to one of the best in the country because it still does not charge admission prices to its facilities like its counterparts in other states. So this in itself should attract visitors from within the state as well as out of state to use its facilities to generate revenue. In November 2017, Missouri state parks started to campaign for the justification of the purchases of these parks after the potential threat of elected officials possibly selling the parks to private parties. So in essence the public comments are being sought to support the decision-making of Missouri state parks staff on how to handle these properties. What is not being fully addressed however is the past decisions of these agency officials, at least to the general public and the taxpayers of Missouri. With the public comment period, which is being generated by the agency, they hope to gain enough support from the public to tell Missouri's elected officials and governor they must give more tax dollars to the agency to make these parks happen. In other words, threaten to close the parks that really never opened, all because they don't have the money to operate or maintain them. So this means bail the agency out financially even though they already have resources and funds generated to them on an annual basis between budget appropriations and sales tax revenue. So why does the Department of Natural Resources not have money to maintain its facilities? What has happened recently that would put the agency in financial dire straits? Simply put, poor business decisions and management have caused the current state of the agency's financial status to be in jeopardy. In 2013, a decision was made to purchase land in Shannon County, Missouri to develop a new park. The acquisition of the land was not very expensive with the purchase price of $640,000 for the acreage. However, what the Division of State Parks failed to address until after the purchase was made that it would cost nearly $52 million to develop the facilities on the land and get the park up and running. The park now developed is called Echo Bluff State Park. Only time will tell if the state recoups money in this investment as the park opened in 2016. In 2016 the decision was made to purchase 3 additional pieces of property throughout the state. This was amidst already having self-proclaimed financial woes. The biggest controversy with this decision was that many Missouri lawmakers felt the land was purchased in secret without the public or the elected officials even knowing about the acquisitions. This led to the newly elected governor and other elected officials to look a little closer at the financial decisions of the DNR and state parks. But what about being fiscally responsible in a transparent tax-funded agency? Where does the Missouri DNR get their money? A quick discussion on how your tax dollars as a Missouri resident are being spent by the Missouri DNR in the park system. According to the Missouri State Parks website, the primary source of funding for the state park system is half of the dedicated constitutional tax of 0.1% parks, soils and water sales tax, which provides about 3/4 of the division's budget for operation and development of state parks. All additional funding comes from revenues generated in the state park system and some federal funds. Every 10 years the Missouri DNR lobbies to get voters to pass the parks, soils and water tax, which was created through a constitutional amendment and earmarked specifically for the state park system. Since initially being developed in 1984, it generates the majority of funds that keep Missouri state parks operational. In addition to the sales tax, the DNR also appropriates funds through the legislature in the state's yearly budget. The appropriations for fiscal years 2015 through 2017 were nearly $84 million. Adding this total to the amount from the sales tax annually, would be nearly $354 million over a 3-year period. This also does not include the fees that are collected for camping, concessions, and souvenirs or the federal funding dollars that are specific to the Division of State Parks. So where is this money being spent? Is the Division of State Parks truly being transparent with their spending? In closing, government at any level prides itself in being honest and transparent to the constituency that it serves. But in the case of Missouri State Parks, it simply is not being honest with its taxpayers of Missouri nor its out-of-state visitors. There is no question state parks and its resources are not important to the state of Missouri, But the approach the Missouri State Parks takes with the management of its budget and resources needs to change. By partaking in the public comment session the Division of State Parks is orchestrating, they simply are trying to divert the public from the truth, by focusing on the natural beauty of these lands and the need to develop them and not the truth, which is they already have the funds necessary without further taxation or delegation from the Budget Appropriations Committee to not only develop the plans for the future of these 3 new parks, but also maintain the 80+ other facilities they already operate and own, such as repairing the various parks' water infrastructure systems, as they have continued to not ensure safe drinking water throughout the various parks they operate. This is despite the Division of State Parks noting in their various literature they are using tax dollars to repair these types of facilities. In one instance in November of 2017 a St. Louis news channel profiled the neglect of a water tower in a St. Louis area park that had not been inspected since last century. What needs to be done is the Division of State Parks needs to find fiscal responsibility from within instead of constantly relying on Big Brother government to bail them out of their irresponsible spending. Like a parent trying to teach the value of $1 to their children, the Division of State Parks should have to do without instead of being rewarded for irresponsible behavior. If that means selling property to a private individual or firm who can make the property useful to the public, then by all means let that person show good business practice to make the resources work. Parks and natural resources are important to Missouri, and without them it certainly would be a different environment in Missouri, but throwing money at something that has proven to be distrustful to its public, is money that schools, prisons, and healthcare facilities will have to do without from the tax dollars of Missouri citizens. This is after the state as a whole is already stretched financially in many of its services. So ask yourself this. Is the recreational use of parks more important than hiring another state trooper, funding a school, funding social service programs, repairing bridges and highways, or hiring adequate staff for state hospitals or correctional facilities? Let your local elected official and the governor know how you feel, before it is too late.